Hey, good afternoon, Colorado. What is good? What's going on with you all today? Appreciate you joining me here for a little bit. So today I want to start out just by saying, it's times like this when we have conflict going on in the world. We experience so much stuff that is negative on social media, online, that I'm thankful for people in Colorado that are doing good things, praiseworthy things in our communities. And today's show is an example of one of those groups. And I just, want to highlight people who are doing things that, just rolling up their sleeves. As I say, I spotlight people in Colorado, people who roll up their sleeves, doing hard work in their communities to help people, help clean up the environment. And today is an example of one of those groups, a nonprofit here in Colorado called the North London Mill Preservation, Inc. And joining me here in a moment is Jeff and Kate Crane, who run this project. And really, what I love about this project and what they're doing, it's a blending, it's a marriage of what made Colorado great around the time of our statehood and what makes our state great today in the year 2022. And what they're doing is taking a gold mill that is located up in the mountains between Leadville and Fairplay, that was constructed back in the 1890s. And they're turning that into a facility for outdoor education and recreation. It's going to be used for a lot of things, but one thing I think is really cool is that they're turning this into a destination for people who are backcountry skiers doing hut-to-hut skiing or snowshoeing in our state, which in the winter, of course, is a big thing for a lot of people here in Colorado. And if you ever get the chance to do it, I really encourage you to take that opportunity because it is a fantastic experience. I got the opportunity to do it many years ago. I was much younger, and it's a memory that I cherish a lot. So anyways, just a really cool project. Look forward to this conversation and finally having it with Jeff and Kate after exploring this a couple of months ago with them. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Aaron Johnson, and like I said, my focus here, my mission is to spotlight people who elevate Colorado, people who are doing the hard work in their communities, people like Jeff and Kate. So with that, will you help me welcome Jeff and Kate Crane of the North London Mill Preservation Project? Jeff, Kate, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
All right.
Um,
Thanks, Aaron.
Good.
I have to correct you,
Oh,
Aaron,
please.
on behalf of Kate. She's not Crane. She's
Oh,
McCoy.
say that again?
So we're Kate, she's Kate McCoy, and I'm Jeff
McCoy.
Crane.
Well,
And actually, our stage name of our band is Crane and McCoy.
Crane and McCoy. You know
So
what?
that
I made an assumption. I appreciate you sharing that. The Cranes and the McCoys. All right. Good luck. Cool. Okay. Appreciate that. So, we start out just? I gave a brief description of what your project is, but I would love for you to share in your own words what this project is, this restoration project is that you're doing. Maybe Jeff, start with you.
well, thanks, Aaron. It's cool to be here, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I could give you kind of the genesis story. So, um,
Yeah, let's
actually,
get there just at a high level. How do you describe, like, what's your elevator pitch for what the project is?
the project is a historic preservation project of a trying to hold this thing still,
Yeah.
of a historic gold milling site, one of the most productive in Colorado and one of the most picturesque that I know of. And it's the adaptive reuse of some of the buildings that are left there for outdoor recreation education. Actually, our mission now includes the arts and sciences. Um, so it was really the site that spoke to me when I first visited
Yeah.
there, and just kind of suggested itself to me. So it's kind of been like snowball effect, no pun intended, since we started about 5 years ago.
Okay. Very good. And then I'd be curious, just starting out, can you share a little bit about yourself and your background, and then love to hear then the genesis of this project. So tell us about who you are and how you got to this point.
I was born in Colorado. I think I'm the only person who was born in Colorado.
Rare native, I am too.
Maybe some of your listeners, but Summit County, where I'm an instructor, Breckenridge, I'm kind of the only one. But I was born in Colorado. I'm a third generation. I think my grandmother came to Colorado. My great grandmother in 1909 or something. She was one of the first patients of Dr. Spivak at what became National Jewish Hospital. They were sending all the Jews with tuberculosis out west, and they said, "Go west, you'll feel better." And
of course, that's famously what Doc Holliday did, going to Glenwood Springs.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's good for Jews and non-Jews alike, but not just for Jews anymore.
For Jews and Gentiles.
Anyway, I grew up in Colorado. I went to school back east in Vermont, and then I lived in Europe, and then I lived in New York City. And actually, Kate and I are both in New York State right now, where we spend half our time.
Okay. So, Kate, tell us about why are you in New York? What are you doing there? You're running this project in Colorado, but you're in New York.
For now, I am. So I am a professor at State University of New York at New Paltz. I teach classes that mainly focus on institutions in U.S. history.
Wow.
U.S. institutions historically, I guess, is a better way to put that. So the last 2 years, I got to teach online a lot, which meant I got to be in Colorado a lot more. I'm back to teaching in person, so here I am in New York. I'm not a native New Yorker. I'm not a native Coloradan. I'm from Southern Ohio.
Okay, cool.
Foothills of the Appalachians, and yeah.
Okay, that is great. Okay, so Jeff, you teased it. Let's get into what inspired this project. How do you go? I guess I'm not sure what you were doing before, but how do you get into restoring a historic project?
You make a phone call.
You take a hike and you make a phone call.
That's basically what happened. Yeah. So my brother was getting married in September of 2016. And so he had a friend of his had a place outside Alma, high school buddy. I knew him and stuff. So we were doing like a bachelor, cabin weekend kind of thing. A bunch of old dads, basically,
sure.
Just like drinking beer and stuff. So I was like, we got to go for a hike because I'm tired of sitting here drinking beer. And so we ended up going up Mosquito Pass Road as far as we could with the rental car we had. And we got out and kind of started hiking up and came upon the mill site. And I saw this like picturesque timber frame building, huge thing. We were kind of exploring it, trespassing, of course. Didn't say no trespassing.
Don't trespass, folks. Don't trespass unless you intend on buying it.
Well, we didn't buy it either. But anyway, we're walking around there, and I'm standing there with my friend Matt, my brother's friend, our friend Matt. And I was like, this would be a really cool alternative backcountry ski area, like a ski area with no chairlift. And turns out that was an idea that was floating around in a few heads at that time. And I can talk about that a little bit more in a second. But so we were just kind of, imagining things and whatever. And when I got back to New York, I looked up, town of Alma. I called the county commission, or no, the town administrator. And I said, who owns that thing? She said, I don't know. Let me call a guy. And she called a guy. And then that was a guy who happened to work for Joe Harrington, who was in the process of acquiring that property along with like 3,000 acres of land up there.
Okay.
And so it was a kind of propitious moment and fortuitous and strange. And we ended up meeting with him. As it happened, my uncle died. And so we had to fly out to Denver in September, and we met with Joe, and Joe showed us a map of all the lands he owned and what his business was. His business is cleaning water that comes out of the mine tunnel on the other side of London Mountain.
I see.
If you're interested in that, you can go online and just Google Mine Water LLC. They did a big deal with Aurora for a bunch of money and fair amount of water. So basically, he has a process to precipitate the heavy metal out of mine water. So that's what he does. But he called me, and I said, yeah, we were up there and we thought this would be like a really cool alternative backcountry ski area. And he said, I agree, let's do it. And I said, what? Because this was not something I knew how to do or had ever done. It was just an idea. And yeah. And, when I got back from Colorado from that camping or that cabin weekend, I said to Kate, there's this cool place up there. And I showed her on the map, and she's like, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. Okay. So that's kind of how it all started. The idea was sort of rolling around in my head. There are a bunch of old, like, a lot of people don't know this, but New York State actually has the most ski areas of any state in the country. And it's only a fraction of the ski areas that used to be here. Snowed, and the middle class had money to do things. I always thought, it would be so cool to take one of these old ski areas, and like some friends of ours lived at one, and like have it just be an uphill, like a human-powered ski area, like no chairlift.
Yeah.
And but there's not enough snow to do that here, right? Because everything's snowmaking. So, we were at this site at 11,400 feet, and there was still snow in late July. So I was like, well, there must be snow here, And so I thought, well, maybe this could be that like a backcountry ski area. And as it happens, we partnered with Bluebird Backcountry in 2018. They did their first prototype at Mosquito Pass there at our site. And that was an epic snow year. It was like, I hope I'm not infringing on any trademark there by using the word epic. But, I work for Vail Resorts, so be careful. But yeah, it was a big snowfall year, and actually it was a historic avalanche cycle, and so that's a whole long story. But anyway, they did their first prototype there with us, and then they went on to find a permanent, I think permanent, or at least permanent for now, place near Kremling, and their vision was like way more people than we could or would or wanted to do. So it wasn't a good marriage, but it was a good partnership.
So where is this located? When I look on the map, it looks like it's right between, Leadville and Fairplay, kind of right in the middle there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, a little. It's between Alma, so it's more kind of closer to Alma. And historically, it's actually it's connected to Fairplay too. But we live in Alma, so it's between Alma, Fairplay, and Leadville.
Yeah, Alma's a town I'd like to go to and see. I have no good excuse for not being there, but it's been on my list for a few years to drive over there and see. I'm over in Castle Rock in Douglas County, so But okay, good. And I think where you guys are located, when I looked on the map, I mean, from kind of the Castle Rock or maybe Larkspur area straight west, about 70 miles as the crow flies, it would be where it is. So for those folks who don't necessarily know where that's at. So for
A lot of people from Colorado Springs who ski Breckenridge, which is a lot of the people who ski Breckenridge, go through Alma or Fairplay, Alma, and then over Hoosier Pass to get to Summit County.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, so for folks that are watching this, I'd love to know, what is it that you like to do in our state in the winter on snowy days like this? Whether it's in your backyard, your community, or getting up into the mountains. Like I said, several years ago, I had the opportunity to do some backcountry, cross-country skiing. I was much younger, and I kind of tagged along with somebody who was organizing this trip. And we went up Guanella Pass to an old ski patrol hut that is up there. And that was an incredible experience. I wish that I could do it again. I would love to do it again. There's so many things I would want to do, and that is one of them. Probably it's not going to happen in the near future, but what you guys are doing and creating up there, I think has got a lot of potential, and it's really cool. So
that was, I think, the first place I ever skied. One of them, because on Guanella Pass it used to be Geneva Basin.
That's
area.
It. Mm-hmm.
I remember getting on the Palma lift and it like lifting me up, like because that thing is so big when you're 3, So, terrifying.
Now, and that I believe that resort was operating like around the 70s. And one of the stories that I had heard was the family that owned that, they had some people, at the bottom there cooking lunch, serving lunch up, and they were just doing it in cast iron skillets, just hamburgers and cast iron skillets, just very basic food, but, relatively cheap, but it served the purpose. I just wish we could go back to that time and see that, because I think that would be fascinating, particularly compared to ski resorts like we have today. So, I mean, you said you're a ski instructor in Summit County at Breckenridge, that's become a world-class destination for sure. Okay, so you said you didn't buy it. I'm curious, is this on Forest Service land or Bureau of Land Management land? What does that look like? Is this private property and you have an agreement with somebody else to go through this project?
You want to address that, Kate?
Yeah, Kate.
Sure. So it's private property, and we have a 50-year lease with Joe Harrington to do this project. And it's really interesting. Initially we had thought that it was going to be a for-profit venture, that we would get investors and, build a thing and do a thing, and then people would get a return on their investment. And when we started meeting with county people and local people, it became really clear that it wasn't going to be the volume, and just wasn't possible. And it's not for everybody. It's at 11,400 feet.
Yeah.
And so then we got introduced through Jeff's mother, actually, to an architect who does historic preservation, Jessica Reske. And she, at that time, she was with a different firm, but now she's with Formworks Design Group, which she founded. And we started embarking on writing grants to get this done as a historic preservation project instead of a commercial venture. And we formed a nonprofit to do that.
Okay. That's great.
The timeline went really quickly. We were
good.
July 2016, we were there. We formed an LLC called Mosquito Pass LLC with Joe Harrington and our friend Matt Labarge, who owns a bar in Denver called Sputnik. And that we did that in September, I think. And then and then we met with the county. We had this meeting at the town hall in Alma that the entire town came to. We put something in everybody's PO box. And we were just like, hey, we have this idea. What do you think? And our slide projector didn't work. And
everybody comes in.
was totally unprofessional. And people were like, "Who are these people?" and whatever. Um, but like, there was sort of half. I've said like, so who thinks this is kind of cool? And about half the room raised their hand. And I said, who thinks this is a bad idea? And about half the people raised their hand. I said, okay, well that's not bad. And you know, like with the information we've got for you right now, but we formed that 501c3 in February of 2017, February 1st. So we just had our fifth birthday anniversary.
So let me jump in there, because one of the questions I want to ask is, you know, what impact are you guys making within the community? I think that's something that I try to draw out through these discussions in trying to get an understanding of what different nonprofits are doing and how they're benefiting the community, what the reaction is in the community. I'd be curious now, you know, you guys had a split room at that time. I don't know if you've been able to win over some of the skeptics, but I'd be curious, you know, what is the reaction that you're hearing now that you're into this from the community, and what difference are you making in that area around Alma?
Well, I guess I would just also quickly say, like, the main concern, there were two main concerns. One was we don't want to be another Breckenridge. And so we were like, well, we don't either. That's the whole idea. And then the other concern was dust. So it's a very dusty road. So traffic on 12, which really like hasn't changed because of us, and probably won't change much because of us. So those were kind of the two main concerns in the room. So
okay, and what's the feedback that you've been hearing since then? Are people encouraged by it, and they see the value that you guys are bringing in?
I think
you want
so.
me to talk to that a little bit?
Sure, that'd be great.
Early on, we had some advocates who were in, you know, pretty good positions in the county and in the town of Alma. Jara Johnson is the queen of Alma, and she knows everything.
I love the shout out.
And she's an amazing person. She was really supportive and helpful, and she's affiliated with the Mosquito Range Heritage Initiative. Mr. High is their acronym, so that's fun. So anyway, the Alma Foundation gave us some early monies, and who else gave us early money? The Park County Historic Preservation Advisory Committee gave us some money to do we were doing a landmark. So in order to get state historical fund money, you have to be a landmark, a local landmark, or you have to be on the state Register of Historic Places or the National Register of Historic Places. So we were working on that local landmark, and we needed an archaeological site survey. And so they contributed to that. So it seems to me that there is a lot of support in the community. I mean, I think there are still skeptics, and, you know, the first impression, worrying about the next Breckenridge, you know, doesn't go away. People that kind of stick with that sometimes. But Park County has been very supportive of us, and we've gotten some serious grant money from the Park County Land and Water Trust Fund. And we have a lot of support there. So that's pretty great.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. And that helps answer another question that I wanted to get to is, you know, kind of what's some of the funding that you're getting and support from people in the community or outside. And that's great that you have that sort of support, and particularly financial support as you're going through this. So let's talk, because I think we may have skipped over a little bit exactly what you guys are trying to build here. And, you know, I love these pictures that you guys have on your site of folks that are there skiing, cross-country skiing around. You're doing outdoor education as well. So I'd love for you to be able to share what is it that you guys are doing with this project. What do you envision it becoming? All the different activities that you want to conduct up there.
So I would also just add a couple things. You know, we have raised a lot of money, almost $1 million in 5 years. Most of that from State Historical Fund,
Okay.
History Colorado, Park County Land and Water Trust Fund, the Gates Family Foundation, Colorado Gates
Sure.
Family Foundation, El Tomar, and then some individuals, and J.M. McDonald Foundation.
Okay.
So that's all thanks to Kate's masterful grant writing and organization skills and
Well, and I think that
deadlines.
speaks to what the value of your project, right? Those sort of groups in Colorado, and those are some pretty heavyweight foundations here in Colorado. They see the value in what you're doing, so that's great for you. Good on you for doing that and communicating.
And then I would also say that, like, yeah, those people get it, and Forest Service gets it, and the Park County BOCC gets it. Not everybody in Park County hasn't much idea what we're doing. Like, they're like, I heard there's going to be chairlift or whatever. Like, it's,
right.
no,
Somebody said it, therefore it becomes true. Yeah,
right.
The tail grows stronger on down the line.
But as far as what we envision, the backcountry recreation is definitely a big part of it, but it's only part of it. One of the things that we learned about the zone very early on from people who knew it, because we didn't, was that the snowpack is not always great. It looks great in these pictures. It was. Right now, it's sort of like not that great. It's not as bad as it was last year, which was terrible. The year before that was pretty good. So, we're not going to make snow. It is what it is, and you ski it if you can, to use another ski area's tagline, Mad River Glen here in the east. But there's always something to ski there, and like actually almost always, like every month of the year, because it's so high up. So the backcountry recreation, the human-powered skiing, snowshoeing, cross-country, ski touring is really the term of art these days for what we kind of used to call cross-country. The gear is beefier. You could ski downhill. I won't get into too much technical stuff there, but what struck me about it when I first went there was like how close it was, so a lot of the backcountry huts in Colorado are pretty long slogs to get to the hut, and the most comparable one to ours is on Boreas Pass, and it's Section House and Ken's Cabin. And what's cool about those is those are also, or were also, historic preservation projects. They served the train. That was a train station or stop or something. And so Gary Nichols, who was the director of Park County Recreation at the time, actually spearheaded that project, and he kind of took us under his wing when we first started doing this, and he's no longer doing that job. But so we learned that the snowpack was difficult and stuff. So we were like, okay, well, whatever, it is what it is.
So bring your rock skis.
Well, it's not that. It's just that, like, wind slap, all of the avalanche stuff that affects all of Colorado affects that place too, and it's a windy zone. But it's great spring skiing, right? So it's a really, like, March, April, May are kind of the best time there. And we're like, well, fine, that is what it is. Our business plan, Kate and I are not business people, we're artists and academics. So our business plan is very simple. It's build it and they will come. And fortunately, Kate and I have zero money, so as artists and academics. So fortunately, we've been successful at raising funding as a nonprofit. And to answer your question about the value, I mean, I think people love that site. And so, for example, the grant that we got from Park County Land and Water Trust Fund to do a creek crossing, which we had engineered and had studied by environmentalists and things, like what was the best approach to do that. That was a local excavation crew called MP Earthworks, based out of Fairplay. And I just put it out on the South Park Bulletin on Facebook, hey, who wants this gig? And he wrote back to me, Jason, and he was like, we would love to do this. I used to go up there when I was in high school. That place is so cool. We would love to work on this. And, so that's a really good example of, like, the local economy, the local politics supporting the local economy through a nonprofit in order to preserve the local landmark. I mean, it was kind of perfect.
I was thinking to talk a little bit more about programming too. So there's
Please, yeah,
the
jump in.
backcountry stuff. So so there is kind of informal stuff, but there are intro to backcountry courses and avalanche awareness courses that we partner with Colorado Adventure Guides to do those things. And Jeff could talk more about that. We have some dates coming up. Do you want to mention that, Jeff?
Yeah, actually, March 6th is sold out apparently, but March 13th, we're doing an intro to backcountry course. It's a one-day course with CAG, Colorado Adventure Guides, based out of Summit County. And that date, I'll be there. And Kate, you're not there yet, I think, but I'll be there. Oh no, you will be there, right? Oh, it's your birthday. Yeah,
it is my birthday.
So
come wish Kate happy birthday and learn how to backcountry ski.
Yeah, so we'll do a kind of NOLO specific, like talking about the project and talking about the history of the place. And so, when you do backcountry touring, you're in this beautiful zone. This particular place has a really powerful sense of place and of history to it. And, the other thing is when you ski at a resort, you go to Breckenridge, you're just like, it's, I don't know. It's growing up in Colorado, growing up in Denver is this kind of ahistorical experience, or it was for me anyway. And so I craved some kind of connection to like a longer historical timeline. And maybe that's why I went east and then I lived in Europe for a little while. But like, you learn about gold mining in school. I went to Denver public schools until 6th grade. And you kind of hear, but you don't have any idea what that means really, or what that looks like, or how it worked, or anything. You just like, gold was the thing. Okay. So this place kind of gives you that sense. The other cool thing about this site is that Father Dyer, John Dyer, who was he wrote a book called The Snowshoe Itinerant, which is pretty hard to read cover to cover, but it's really fun to like just read excerpts from. But his portrait is in the dome of the Capitol, and he's considered one of the 16 founders of the state. And his portrait's right next to Chief Ouray. And he was probably like one of the first, if not the first, backcountry skier in Colorado, because he would like take his Norwegian snowshoes, which were 12-foot, telemark skis basically, and travel from Alma to Leadville via Mosquito Pass, or from Blue River to Breckenridge to Alma. Like, it's crazy what he did without Gore-Tex or AT bindings or anything really. And so anyway, it's a really interesting kind of other aspect to that place. So where was I? What's programming? I don't remember what.
Let me jump in real quick. And Kate, I know that you have a class coming up because you're a professor and you got to teach here soon.
Yes.
So, and if you need to jump, then please. But the next question I really want to get at, and before I let you go, is, I guess kind of like the top 3 things that you would say, you want people to know about backcountry recreation, or balancing the historic development with the environment, and that you guys are learning that, going through that in this project. I mean, you can take it any direction that you want, but what are the top 3 or a few things that you want people to know about the type of work that you're doing and when it comes to recreation and balancing the environment? I guess I'll say that.
I know you asked us to think about this. I think that in some ways it's really challenging. Cleanups were done at that site by the Colorado Division of Reclamation, Mining and Safety in the 90s.
Okay.
And actually that same division is secured some federal money to stabilize the mill so it won't keep falling down. But Yeah, environment and history. So, we had a vision that this would be an off-grid thing, which it is off-grid, and that we would, do composting toilets and all that kind of stuff, but we
Mm,
can't actually do that there. Um, so we are using solar power for our electricity.
okay.
Um, so yeah, so that's an interesting thing, but we have to have a septic system and we have to dig a well and, all the normal stuff you have to do to have occupancy. Um, yeah.
So
So
if
I
I
don't think
can't,
that's a very good soundbite.
No, you're good.
another way to respond to that actually is that, and this kind of goes to what you said in your introduction. Um, so Joe Harrington, who is our landlord, his
Mm,
business is to clean water, and it's a very lucrative business in Colorado, and more power to him. But that's his business, is to clean up the water, and so our partnership with him is kind of an odd couple. I'll just say this: we're not exactly politically aligned. Let's just put it that way. But we get
great. I love
along,
it.
and
No,
it's, it's cool.
that is exactly what we're doing here. Is what I want to accomplish through this is look in 10 seconds. I'm sure we could find we're not politically aligned in some area, right, or many areas. That doesn't. But that's the Colorado way. Let's find ways to work with each other. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to jump in and emphasize that point. That's the Colorado way.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And, I mean, the guys who were doing the excavation, we would have conversations about the election and stuff.
Sure.
And they were civilized because they were like people talking to each other and not like shouting online and whatever. And like, I'm as guilty of that as anybody and whatever. But,
Me too.
Nope.
but, so, so the environmental stuff is kind of part of the whole thing anyway with Joe's project. And then on our side, cleaning up that site is more of a historic preservation thing and not so much an environmental cleanup. As Kate mentioned, tailings piles had already been removed, but we do work very closely with the Forest Service, with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and the county, and hopefully with Joe going forward to do some cleanup of some of the tailings piles. I was just talking to our South Park District Ranger about that today. That whole zone is just littered with tailings piles. And they're actually worth something, right? Because like they didn't get that much of the gold out of that ore.
Wow.
At the time. So figuring out a way to deal with that, and there are ways to deal with that. And, so we're kind of part of that story as well. Right now, we're really focused on trying to finish the office. It's the 1883 mining office. It was a uniquely fancy building for a place like that, for the mining managers and owners to stay in. It had plaster on lath walls and tongue and groove, I think oak.
Wow.
We haven't had that confirmed, floors. And so that'll be a backcountry hut, similar to the other huts run by Summit Hut and 10th Mountain Hut Association. And so we're focused on finishing that this summer and hopefully getting it going. And then just the last quick thing I want to say is, we had this meeting with contractors and DRMS, Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety, to get federal funding to do a initial stabilization of the mill. Kate mentioned that. That's going to generate a lot of material, like wood mostly, that's not going to be useful for anything except art, basically. And I have a art background myself, and I know that once you start stacking things, you're making sculpture. So we're going to work with artists. We've spoken to some people at CU Boulder and some other artists about doing site-specific installation there. And that's something we have a lot of on the East Coast. And it would mean a lot to me to be like bringing kind of some of that experience back to Colorado. So anyway.
Interesting. It's interesting you say that, because that brings to mind the big yellow sculpture at I-25 and between Santa Fe and Broadway in Denver, right? And it's just, it looks like, we always call it the big French fry in our house as we drive by. But, it's just rectangles stacked on top of each other and twisted. But anyways, that's fascinating.
Yeah, we call that we call that plop art.
Plop art. Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
I do have to bounce, but I
Yeah,
wanted to say
please.
one thing before I go. And, we focused on programming in the winter, but we also do programming in the summer. We do history archaeology workshops. We're doing August 12th and 13th this year. And we are also planning a burro hike. There, and some of the photographs that you were showing shows a burro. And so we've done some of that, and we plan to do that again this summer. And I've got to go because I need to breathe a little bit and think about what I'm going to do in class today. But thank you so much, Erin.
I
And
appreciate
yeah,
you jumping on, and thank you for your time. Jeff, if you still have a couple moments here to hang out, then I just we'll wrap up. So good. Okay,
Yeah.
let me flip over to a screen. I was trying to do this here real quick. We'll get rid of this.
I'm not. Yeah, pop skirt.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears here as we go through. This is fascinating, and I would love to have a much deeper, longer discussion with you guys. But I appreciate the time that you have given me. We talked a little bit just before this about the location. So the mill is what you guys are focusing on. The mine that processed the ore was you said that was just up the hill. Can you describe that a little bit as well? Because
Yeah.
that's a critical part of this whole area.
Right. So a lot of people call it the North London Mine. It's not. The mine was 800 vertical feet up the mountain, tunneled into London Mountain, which went all the way through in both directions. The definition of a mine, according to Mark Twain, was a mine is a hole in the ground owned by a liar, or something like that.
Okay.
So phrasing. But and Kate's done a lot of the historical research and the newspaper accounts and stuff like that, the sheriff's sales, and She talks about all of that along with her partners, Natasha Krasno and Michelle. And I'm forgetting Michelle's last name, when they do their history and archaeology workshops, which I would really encourage people to attend in the summer. But anyway, the mine was up the mountain. Colorado's first purportedly aerial tramway served the mill from the mine and brought the ore down in ore buckets to be processed in the mill. Ore is just rock. I mean it, and I've been inside the South London mine. I mean, mine tours are a thing you can do, and Georgetown has wonderful stuff and all that. And there's one in Breck that's really fun too, Cabin Boy, I think it is, and or Country Boy, sorry. But when you're looking at high quality, like Joe said, so that's high grade gold ore right there. I'm like, it looks like a rock. Like, it doesn't look like anything. I don't know how you know that. I don't know how they knew where to dig, where they dug. I have no idea how really, like, I think some of it is just dumb luck. A lot of it's dumb luck, and some of it's some intuition and probably some knowledge and stuff. But anyway, it looks like rocks. So they dig up the rocks, they put them in ore buckets, they bring it down to the mill. The mill crushes it up, and through various processes, some of which are similar to basically panning, right? You grind it up into dirt, and then you float, you put it on a shaker table with water, and the gold is heavy and drops. And
Right.
why is gold valuable anyway? I mean, the whole story of gold is weird, actually, and a really ancient story, and very much connected to art, actually. So we're hoping that some of the artists that we have come up will kind of address that history.
I'm a photographer. I love doing film photography because that's what I learned. And that's not gold, but that's silver. And you can't have film photography without the silver.
I had a friend who was he died, but he was making his own photographic paper using gold salt or something instead of silver salt. Yeah, and using like uranium. I don't know. It was like radioactive. Like that's not why he died, but it's not unconnected.
That's not. Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. Okay. So just kind of wrap up here a little bit. I guess what would be a call to action that you have for people that are watching? What would you like them to know about what you're doing, or what is it that you would like for them to do?
Well, first, I'm just Kate and I are really grateful for you having us and being able to talk about this. So knowing about it is a good thing. You can join NOLO for $20.
Wow.
And I think we're going to keep that membership level basically there or slightly above with inflation or whatever. But like, just having that annual support of X number of people. We've been really good at raising capital funds to do the projects, but it's really hard to have funding to do the mundane like insurance and our vehicle and stuff like that. So you can join NOLO as a member. That'll put you on our mailing list and keep you informed of what's going on up there. And I think probably what we'll do is different tiers of membership, which will provide kind of priority things for the hut and so on. But just get involved in that way. And our Facebook page is probably the most up-to-date information. So if you just look for North London Mill Preservation, you'll find it. So those two things. And feel free to reach out if you have some special skill or some special interest in the history of the place. We will have some volunteer opportunities this summer for putting in insulation up there and stuff like that. But that would be the simplest way to get involved. If you have $1 billion and you want to give us $1 million, a small fraction of your billion, we could definitely use it. But we only need one of those, really. So
that's right, and you're not going to get it if you don't ask, right?
Right.
So for the billionaires in the audience, please. Just a small fraction.
And I don't want to leave out the millionaires. If the millionaires want to give us $100,000, that would be cool too. But like I said, we're doing this as a labor of love. We don't have to earn a salary for this. There's some administrative expenses that get covered. We kind of break even doing it. Being in a kind of art background, I'm used to making things and not getting paid for that, just because that's what I want to do. So that's sort of what this is. And, Kate's got her day job and I have several, but yeah, just check out the website. And if you want to become a member and, or donate, we're grateful for that.
And what's the web address?
It's nolocolorado.org.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I love these pictures here that you guys have on your site. Keep flipping over to them. I'd love to be able to travel up there. Maybe I'll drive up there this summer and check it out.
That picture there was taken during one of those days that we did with Bluebird Backcountry. You could see there's a ton of snow. That was after this like crazy winter.
Yeah, I bet you guys are going to get it here over the next 6 to 8 weeks, and we need it. But no, this is really good. And then one more question for you. I always love to ask people that come on, and maybe you teased it a little bit earlier in talking about growing up in Denver and having that sense of Colorado, and that's what inspired you around this project. I'm a native myself. I understand what you're saying because so much of our region has changed, just even in the last 5 to 10 years. But what I love to ask people is, in your view, what makes Colorado such a great place to live?
Oh, so many things. The 300 days of sunshine, the reliable, generally snowfall. I mean, I ski in the East and in New York State, and I love it. It's great. And that little ski area you mentioned is kind of like Plattekill Mountain. A little shout out to Plattekill, where I'm going to be this weekend. But it rains here on the snow. It's disgusting. Like, that's not right. I remember when I came out here for college, and I'm in Vermont, and it's like raining in February, and I'm, what? That's not right. So
ruins it.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, it keeps it from avalanching. So there's that. But just the mountains, the skiing, the sunshine, and the people, and the and kind of, as you said, just in the world that we live in today, like, people kind of get along in Colorado in a way that I don't think happens everywhere.
Yeah, I hear that, and I appreciate that, and that's what I'm trying to draw out through this. So that's right. So cool. Well, I appreciate your time, Kate's time as well, Kate McCoy. Sorry for missing that earlier. And for you guys sharing what you're doing, because this project, it's tucked away up there. If you're not in the Alma area or Fairplay area, you might not even know about it. But I think that this is worthwhile and really cool. I look forward to getting up there and checking out what you're doing. It's probably not going to be over the next few weeks. Like I said, it'll probably be this summer when I end up driving up there, having the time to do that. But really cool project.
Well, we'd be glad to give you the VIP tour. And if people want to come up and see it during the winter and their backcountry skiers, just send us an email through the website there, and we have some events scheduled and some unofficial things that we do for members, and then certainly in the summertime. And then of course there's the burro race that happens in Fairplay, which is a lot of fun, and we're kind of tangentially, we're on the course, so we do an open house that day.
So your facility there is on the burro race course?
Yeah, it's not right on it. Like our little spur road driveway is off of CR12 Pass, but they go past us on the road there, and it's fun to watch them.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I've got a friend who does that. He and his wife do that, and love to be able to have a discussion with them as well on here because that is a unique thing as well. And I think more people should know about it. It's the people that are into it. It's fascinating. Like it just people you wouldn't expect, I guess. But it really is a great part of Colorado's history.
We didn't know anything about it, and actually, Burro Days was happening on that first visit I made to the place, and a friend of ours, Dave Carner, who has a hut in Lake County, races burros, and they're adorable animals and really and incredibly hardy and stubborn, and
there's like this subculture around it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Hey, thank you very much. I'm going to let you go here, and I'm going to just wrap up for a few minutes. And I appreciate your time, Jeff. Appreciate Kate coming on as well. And she's off teaching now, so I know you guys have busy schedules, but this is really cool. And look forward to following you and learning more. I appreciate you sharing with folks here about what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having us. Thanks for people who watch this. And come on up. Yeah, check it out.
We will. All right. Have a great afternoon and weekend as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, friends. That was fascinating. I reached out to Jeff and Kate a couple months ago. I had stumbled on their project online a couple of months ago. Went down a rabbit hole after reading a news story about the community around Leadville and some stuff going on around there. Led me to that site. Oh my gosh, this is really cool. What an interesting project. And like I said, I'd love for more people to hear about it. So we're finally able to work it out with Jeff and with Kate and have them on, and they're generous with their time, and I appreciate that. So just to kind of recap up there, March 13th and April 10th. Look, if you are interested in learning how to do backcountry skiing, go. They're the ones doing it. I'm sure there's others, but it's not a terrible drive to get up there. Sounds like an awesome facility, awesome location, and an easy way to learn more about getting into backcountry skiing. And if you ever get that chance to do it, I really encourage it. Like I said, I had that opportunity several years ago. Somebody that I knew was going up Quinella Pass and invited me to join him and some friends to join him. That was a really great experience, something I wish I could do more of as well. $20 membership to their nonprofit, help support them. So if you're interested, you want to help support Conservation and Restoration Project and what Jeff and Kate are doing, then that's pretty low entry there. And if you're interested in doing some volunteer work as well, they need it. And what an awesome day to spend up in the mountains and do a little community service, a little volunteerism. I love it. So again, thank you, Jeff Crane, Kate McCoy with the North London Mill Preservation Project for coming on and sharing. Folks, these are the type of people and organizations that I am striving to bring on to this show. I've got some other exciting guests coming up over the next month. Really looking forward to sharing with you. Tomorrow I have a show, a live stream you can join as well with Mile High Workshop, and they're a nonprofit based in Denver that are helping people who have been homeless in their lives, or maybe they've been incarcerated, and they're trying to get a foundation under them, and that they're trying to learn the skills to get jobs and improve their lives. And I really look forward to that conversation as well. What Mile High Workshop is doing is really helping give these folks a foothold to become more successful and have those basic job skills. So I look forward to hearing more from them about that. You can find out more about what I'm doing, watch past streams, catch up on those at my website. milehighllive.co is the address, milehighllive.co. And I did .co because, well, we're in Colorado and it was a no-brainer. So just drop the M off. milehighllive.co is the site. And of course, if you would consider subscribing, then would appreciate that. So I'm trying to get this all here, changed everything around in my setup. I shouldn't have done that. But consider subscribing to the channel down below. Give this a like if you would. I'm not trying to build up my numbers just for the sake of having high numbers. What I'm looking for is a group of people who join in on this and are interested in engaging and learning more about what's going on here in Colorado, and people like Jeff and Kate who are doing good things in their community. And that's my whole point here on Mile High Live. Spotlight people who are elevating our state, rolling up their sleeves and doing good things in the community, improving the environment, and like in the case of the North London Mill Preservation Project, helping people is, I think, good thing to focus on right now with the conflict that's going on in the world, the negativity that we see on social media. And like Jeff said, part of what makes Colorado special, it's our ability to put our differences aside. Not that we're going to ignore them, but get along with each other and live in this community. And that's, I think that's an important thing. And I don't want to lose sight of that here, because that's what makes Colorado special and part of why I love Colorado. So, look, with that, I'm going to move on. I appreciate you watching. If you have questions, drop them down below. Would love to answer your questions. Love to hear your feedback. And if there's anybody else that you think would be wonderful to reach out to, you can drop those down in the comment section. If there's a particular group or person that you think you should talk to, let me know. Or you can go to my website again, milehighllive.co, and drop me a note over there. I'd love to hear from you. So I'm Aaron Johnson, and that's what's good in Colorado. Thanks.